Life's busy, you're juggling work, maybe family, and trying to fit everything in. Time feels really precious.
It really does. There's never enough of it.
Right. So what if I told you you could actually improve your English skills, like almost effortlessly, just by doing something you probably do anyway?
I'm intrigued. What are we talking about?
Watching TV and movies.
Ah, okay. Using screen time for learning. It's interesting, how our brains can just sort of soak things up from the environment.
Exactly. Often without us even consciously directing it.
Yeah.
So welcome everyone to this deep dive. Today we are unlocking this, well, surprisingly effective method. Subconscious English learning, basically through your TV or computer screen.
The magic of screens, as you say.
Yeah, forget the endless grammar drills for a minute. We've waded through, well, a lot of fascinating info on this, from the brain science side of things to, the practical stuff.
The nitty-gritty.
The nitty-gritty, how to actually do it. And our goal here is to pull out the most valuable, most actionable insights for you.
Think of it as maybe a shortcut to getting clued in on this unique learning method.
Exactly. Your fast track to understanding how that next Netflix binge could actually be, well, a really powerful language learning session, and maybe uncover some surprising facts along the way.
And from a, let's say, language acquisition perspective, it really comes down to exposure. Consistent exposure to what we call comprehensible input.
Right. Language you can mostly understand.
Yes. And TV and movies, if you approach them the right way, they offer just a really rich, engaging source of exactly that.
So what's the plan for today? We're going to dig into the science a bit, why this seemingly passive thing can actually work so well.
The how.
Yeah, the how. Then we'll explore the specific reasons TV and movies are such great tools, and honestly, it's more than just being entertaining.
Although the entertainment factor is important too.
Oh, definitely. We'll suggest what kinds of shows might work best, and crucially, how to watch them for maximum benefit. We've got this simple technique we're calling the triple watch technique.
Sounds interesting. A structured approach.
Yeah. And a sample weekly routine to show how you could, fit this into your life without it feeling like a huge chore.
Making you practical.
And finally, we have a really cool success story from a listener to share, just to show this isn't all theory, it gets real results.
Real world impact. Always good to hear those.
Oh, ready to dive in.
Absolutely. It really brings up that fundamental question, doesn't it? How can our brains pick up a language sort of on their own without that focused study mode we usually think of?
Okay, yeah, let's unpack that. Think about how we all learned our first language, right? As babies, as kids.
No textbooks involved there.
Exactly. We weren't sitting there conjugating verbs or memorizing flashcards. We were just immersed, swimming in a sea of language.
Listening to parents, family, TV, everything.
Yeah, watching people talk, seeing their faces, their gestures, hearing the sounds, the rhythm, all in context. That's basically subconscious learning right there.
Precisely. And the brain, well, it's an incredible pattern recognition machine. It's just built for it.
Constantly looking for patterns.
Yes. So when you're consistently exposed to a language, even if you're not actively trying to, analyze every single sentence.
Which you usually aren't when you're watching TV.
Right. Your brain is still working away in the background. It's identifying those recurring patterns, how words usually go together, common phrases for certain situations, even the subtle things like pronunciation and intonation.
So it's like building a model of the language. Quietly.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
Like a statistical model, almost. It figures out the probabilities, what sounds follow what sounds, what words group together.
And what's really cool is that this ability, this knack for learning through immersion, it doesn't just switch off when we grow up.
No, it's still there.
Oh.
Still a powerful tool available to us.
So when you're watching that show in English, maybe you miss some words, maybe even whole sentences sometimes.
Especially at the beginning.
Yeah. But your brain is still grabbing stuff. It's picking up the melody of the language, the common word pairings, collocations, right?
Yes, collocations. Words that naturally hang out together. Like heavy rain, not strong rain.
Right. Or make a decision, not do a decision. Your brain hears those pairings again and again.
And it registers them. It all goes in, even if you're not consciously logging every instance.
This lines up really well with that idea of input-based learning, doesn't it?
It does, very strongly. The core idea there is the more language you understand, that comprehensible input we mentioned in meaningful situations.
Situations where you care what's happening.
Exactly. The more your brain can naturally figure out the rules and the vocabulary without someone explicitly teaching you.
And TV shows, movies, they're perfect for this because the visuals, the story, they give you so much context.
They help you guess the meaning, even if the words are new. You see someone slam a door and shout. You get the emotion, the context, even if you miss the exact insult.
Huh. Yeah, exactly. Now, here's where it gets really interesting, I think. We're not just saying, have the TV murmuring in the background while you cook dinner.
Right. That kind of purely passive exposure, the benefits are probably minimal.
Yeah. To really tap into this subconscious power, you need a bit of engagement. Not intense study, but you need to be paying attention, enjoying it, allowing your brain to do its natural work.
It's about finding that sweet spot. Relaxed attention, maybe. Especially when you're starting out with this method.
Think about people who are fluent in multiple languages. Often, a big part of their story involves immersion, right? Living somewhere or just consuming a lot of media.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we can kind of create a mini immersion environment right in our living rooms with this approach.
A deliberate yet relaxed form of attention coupled with enjoyment. That seems to be the key.
That's a critical distinction, yes.
Okay, so we agree it can work. But why are TV and movies such fantastic, almost accidental language teachers? Let's break down some of the main reasons.
Okay. Well, first and foremost, I'd say it's the authenticity of the language.
Oh, definitely. This isn't the slightly stiff, maybe unnatural dialogue you sometimes get in textbooks.
No, this is how people actually talk. You hear the slang, the idioms, the interruptions, the ums and ahs.
The messy reality of conversation.
Exactly. The natural ebb and flow. And that's incredibly valuable.
You also get exposure to what linguists call pragmatic language.
Yes, pragmatics. It's not just what words mean, but how people use them in real social situations.
Like understanding sarcasm, or when someone's being polite but actually means no.
Precisely. Picking up on implied meanings, tone of voice, the subtle cues that go way beyond dictionary definitions, things that are really hard to teach in a classroom.
Yeah, absolutely. And then there's the power of emotional connection.
Oh, huge.
When you get invested in a character, right? You
Right.
care about their story, you laugh with them, you feel anxious for them.
You're emotionally engaged.
That emotional hook, it does something to your memory, doesn't it? It makes the language stick better.
It really does. There's quite a bit of neuroscientific research backing this up. Strong link between emotion and memory consolidation.
So if you feel something when you hear a phrase, you're more likely to remember it.
Essentially, yes. Information tied to an emotional experience gets prioritized, you could say. It's more likely to be encoded and stored in your long-term memory.
So rooting for your favorite character is actually good for your English.
In a way, yes. The more you connect, the more effectively your brain might just process the language they're using.
Plus, TV and movies just give you tons and tons of context.
It's not just words floating in space.
No. You see everything. The person's body language, their facial expression, where they are, what just happened.
The whole visual and situational picture.
And all that acts like a massive clue, helping you understand what the words mean, even if they're new.
It's learning through association, but in a really rich, multisensory way. This contextual richness is incredibly important. Language isn't just grammar rules and vocabulary lists.
No, it's tied up with culture, social situations.
Exactly. And video gives you all those extra layers of meaning that you often miss with just audio or text.
And then there's repetition, especially in certain types of shows like sitcoms.
Ah, yes. The recurring jokes, the catchphrases.
Yeah. Think about Friends or The Office. Characters have their signature lines, their running gags.
That happens naturally, episode after episode.
And that repetition is like built-in spaced repetition almost. Those words and phrases just get drilled into your memory, but without feeling like drilling.
Because it's organic.
Yeah.
You hear the phrase used by different people, maybe in slightly different ways in different contexts.
Right, so you understand the nuances better, not just rote memorization.
Exactly. It deepens your understanding of how and when to use it.
And maybe the biggest reason of all, it's fun.
Crucial.
You actually want to watch these shows. It doesn't feel like homework.
That intrinsic motivation, the enjoyment factor, it cannot be overstated. Real learning, sustained learning, needs motivation.
If it feels like a chore, you're just not going to stick with it long enough.
But if you're looking forward to watching the next episode anyway, and you realize it's also helping your English, well, that's a win-win.
Your favorite show basically becomes your accidental English tutor.
And a very engaging one. By aligning learning with your entertainment habits, you're creating a path to improvement that's just much more sustainable and, frankly, more pleasant.
Totally. Okay, so we're sold on the idea TV and movies, good for English, but there's so much out there. what should you actually watch? It can feel a bit, overwhelming.
It's a fair point. The sheer volume of content is huge. Selecting wisely is important.
Yeah. You need to think about maybe your current English level.
Yeah.
And what you want to get better at.
Exactly. Different genres tend to use different kinds of vocabulary, different styles of speaking.
Okay, so let's brainstorm some genres. If you want to get better at informal, everyday English, casual chat, cultural jokes, idioms.
Sitcoms are often a great bet there. Comedy series.
Right. Shows like Friends, obviously, or maybe Brooklyn Nine-Nine, The Office, Parks and Rec, that kind of thing.
Yeah, those are fantastic for hearing how people banter, make jokes, use common slang and phrasal verbs in everyday situations.
And they often have recurring situations, the same character, so you get that repetition we talked about.
Familiar settings, relatable contexts, and the generally lighter tone can make them feel less daunting, maybe, if you're still learning.
Okay, what if your goal is more about understanding, emotional conversations, vocabulary about relationships, family stuff, life drama?
Then dramas or maybe romance shows could be a better fit.
Like This Is Us or Grey's Anatomy, even something like The Good Place, which has philosophy but also lots of character interaction.
Or Modern Love. Those kinds of shows often explore more nuanced personal interactions. You'll hear a wider range of emotional vocabulary, maybe more complex sentences, but still often in everyday settings.
And because they're character-driven, you get that emotional hook again.
Exactly. Aids engagement and memory.
What about younger viewers or people wanting to understand more current slang, how maybe younger people talk, social media language?
Teen dramas, high school comedies can be surprisingly useful there.
Like Stranger Things. Or Never Have I Ever, Sex Education.
Those kinds of shows. Now, it's worth saying slang can be very specific, changes fast, might not always be appropriate everywhere.
Good point. But still useful to understand.
Oh, definitely. They offer a valuable window into current informal communication styles and, cultural trends in language.
And what about absolute beginners? Or maybe someone who just wants really clear, easy to understand speech?
Animation. Animated shows can be fantastic.
Really? Like cartoons?
Yeah. For very basic levels, something like Bluey or Peppa Pig uses super simple, clear language. Perfect for just starting out.
Okay, and for slightly higher level?
Maybe something like Avatar, The Last Airbender, or The Simpsons, Gravity Falls. The voice acting is often very clear, quite expressive, but the language is usually pretty standard and understandable.
And the animation itself provides extra visual context.
Exactly. Things are often simplified visually, which can make it less overwhelming. Plus, the stories are usually engaging enough to keep you watching.
So the big takeaway here seems to be, pick something you actually like.
Absolutely critical. If you're bored, you'll tune out and the learning stops.
Yeah. Find something that genuinely interests you. And maybe aim for shows where the English is, reasonably clear and conversational, at least to start.
Right. Maybe avoid really complex fantasy epics with made-up languages or very stuffy, formal historical dramas if your English isn't quite there yet.
Find that sweet spot, right. Engaging, but understandable enough.
Challenging enough to learn, but not so difficult you just get frustrated and give up. That's the goal.
Boy. Great. So you've picked your show, you're excited to watch it. Now, how do you actually watch it to get the most learning out of it?
Right, because just having it on in the background probably isn't the optimal strategy.
No. We came across this really neat, structured approach. We're calling it the triple watch technique.
Triple watch. Okay. Sounds methodical.
It is, but in a simple way. It basically gives you a framework for watching the same episode 3 times, but each time with a slightly different focus.
Allowing you to gradually go from just understanding the story to really absorbing the language.
Exactly. So step 1, watch the episode with subtitles in your own language, your native language.
Okay. First viewing, native language subtitles.
Yep. The main goal here, just enjoy it, understand the plot, who the characters are, what's going on, relax, get invested, build that emotional connection we talked about.
Makes sense. You need that foundation first. Understanding the context is vital before you dive into the specifics of the English used. You're building a mental map of the episode.
Precisely. Then, step 2, watch the exact same episode again, but this time
English subtitles.
English subtitles. Now you're shifting your focus a bit more towards the language itself. You're reading the English words as you hear them spoken.
So connecting the sound to the written form.
Exactly. Your brain starts making those direct links. You'll notice pronunciation details, maybe the rhythm, how words are stressed in a sentence.
So this stage is like a bridge. It connects your understanding of the plot from the first watch with the specific English words and sentences used to tell that plot.
Yeah. You're actively engaging with the English, but you still have the text there as a support, a safety net.
Got it. First watch, native subs for story. Second watch, English subs for language connection. Well, step 3.
Step 3, watch the same episode one last time, and this time, no subtitles at all.
Okay. Cold turkey.
Yeah. This is where you really challenge your ears and your brain. Rely on the input you've already processed in the first 2 viewings.
You're just listening now.
Just listening. And it's totally fine if you don't catch every single word. That's not the point.
What is the point then?
You're training your ear to recognize the natural flow, the sounds, the rhythm of spoken English. You're spotting words and phrases you now recognize from the second viewing.
And maybe starting to guess the meaning of unfamiliar words purely from the context and the sound.
Exactly. You're pushing your brain to use those subconscious pattern matching skills we talked about. It's active listening, really, using everything you've absorbed so far.
Okay. Native subs, then English subs, then no subs. It feels like a logical progression.
It does, right. Now, obviously, you don't need to do this for every single episode of every show you ever watch. That would be a lot.
Yeah, maybe unsustainable for most people.
But even if you just consistently apply this technique to, say, 1 episode per week, that can make a real difference over time.
Consistency over intensity.
Exactly. You'll start to notice you recognize common phrases more easily. You'll understand bits of dialogue without consciously translating in your head. You might even start guessing new words correctly just from the situation.
That's the subconscious learning starting to kick in.
Yeah, it's becoming more automatic.
So that consistency point is key. Regular focus watching using this method, even just for 1 episode a week, is probably much better than binge watching 10 episodes passively.
Right. So how do you actually build this into your life, your routine, without it feeling like, ugh, more homework?
Yeah, making it practical and sustainable.
We put together a little sample weekly plan, just an idea, obviously.
Flexible, adaptable.
Totally.
Yep.
Adapt it to your schedule, how much time you have. The main thing is finding a rhythm you can stick with.
Okay, let's hear the sample plan.
All right, so maybe Monday. Pick 1 episode of your chosen show. Watch it with subtitles in your native language. Step 1, just relax, enjoy the story.
Okay. Monday, watch 1, native subs.
Tuesday, watch that same episode again, this time English subtitles. Step 2, pay a bit more attention to the words, matching sound to text.
Tuesday, watch same 1, English subs.
Wednesday, watch it 1 last time, no subtitles. Step 3, challenge yourself. See how much you pick up just by listening.
Wednesday, watch same 1, no subs. The full triple watch spread over 3 days.
Exactly. Then, maybe Thursday. Take like 5 or 10 minutes. Jot down maybe 3 to 5 interesting new words or phrases you remember hearing in that episode.
Adding a bit of active recall. Good idea. Helps solidify things.
Yeah. And then Friday, try to use 1 or 2 of those new phrases, maybe in a text, an email, talking to someone, or even just thinking a sentence to yourself using it.
Applying it, making
Yeah.
it active, not just passive reception.
Right. And then the weekend, just chill, watch whatever you want, purely for fun, no pressure. Or rewatch old favorites.
So the focused learning is concentrated midweek, leaving weekends free. That sounds manageable.
Yeah, it integrates the triple watch, adds a bit of review and application, but keeps it contained. Your fun TV time genuinely becomes learning time, but hopefully without the stress of formal study.
Weaving English into your life naturally.
That's the goal. Enjoyable, sustainable.
And the key advice alongside this routine is probably patience, right? And persistence.
Oh, absolutely. Subconscious learning isn't instant magic. It's gradual. It's the build-up, the cumulative effect of that consistent exposure and focused watching over weeks and months.
But the results can be quite significant over time.
Definitely. And to really drive that home, let me share this story we heard. It's really inspiring.
Okay, yeah. A real-world example.
It's about a listener. Her name's Fatima. She's from Morocco. And she started watching Friends during a time when she just had a bit more free time on her hands.
Friends. A classic choice for this method, seems like.
Totally. So initially, she did exactly what we described, watched with Arabic subtitles just to get the jokes and follow the story.
Step 1.
Then she switched to English subtitles, connecting the spoken words with the text.
Step 2.
And eventually, after doing this for a while, she found she could watch whole episodes without any subtitles at all and understand most of it.
Step 3. She completed the cycle. And how long did this take?
She said it was over about a year of pretty consistent viewing, not necessarily every single day, but regularly using this kind of approach.
Okay, so persistence paid off.
Big time. She shared something amazing. She said after about that year, she suddenly realized she could understand pretty much any American TV show easily. Just turn it on and follow along.
Wow, that's a huge leap.
Isn't it? And she also felt her own speaking became faster, more natural, less hesitation.
Picking up the rhythm and flow.
Yeah. And the coolest part, she said she even started thinking in English sometimes, without trying.
That's often seen as a real marker of fluency, isn't it, when your internal monologue starts switching languages?
Exactly. And think about how she got there. No intense grammar books, no boring drills, just smart, consistent watching of a show she loved.
That's the power of combining enjoyment with that focused, subconscious learning approach.
Sure.
Fatima's story really highlights how you can create that immersive environment yourself, even if you're not living in an English-speaking country.
Yeah. She used the media available to her and achieved really significant results. It's fantastic.
A great testament to the method.
So, as we start to wrap up this deep dive, the main message is pretty clear, right?
I think so. If you enjoy watching TV shows and movies,
Which, let's be honest, most of us do.
then you already have a huge library of language learning resources right at your fingertips.
Yeah, it's just about being a little more intentional, turning that enjoyable habit into a strategic tool to boost your English.
Remembering those key ideas, choose stuff you actually like watching.
Crucial. And make sure it's roughly at a level you can mostly understand, at least with some support.
Use that triple watch technique.
Yeah.
Native subs, English subs, no subs, maybe for one episode a week, to really engage deeply.
Find a routine that works for you, something you can stick with consistently over the long haul.
Consistency beats cramming.
Always. And maybe most importantly of all, enjoy it.
Yes, language learning shouldn't feel like a punishment.
Right. It's about opening doors, connecting with people, understanding different perspectives, experiencing culture.
Should be enriching.
So let English become a natural, enjoyable part of your downtime, part of your world. And you might just be amazed at how much you start to absorb, almost without realizing it.
It really taps into that organic way we learn languages naturally, like how we learned our first one, through immersion, context, repetition, enjoyment.
By making it part of your entertainment, you're creating a much more relaxed, low-stress learning zone.
Which is often much more effective in the long run.
Well, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive today. We really hope this look into subconscious English learning through TV and movies has been helpful.
Yeah, hopefully insightful and maybe giving you some practical ideas you can try out.
We definitely encourage you to experiment. Try the triple watch. Find shows that click for you. See what routine feels good.
Discover what works best for your own learning style. Think about how you can weave English into your leisure time in a way that feels good, feels sustainable.
We hope this has sparked some ideas, maybe inspired you to see your screen time a little differently as valuable learning time.
So go on, put on your favorite show.
And let your effortless English learning adventure begin. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you on the next deep dive.